And hello, Jets fans, and welcome to another episode of Rich Sports Talk. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program. If you're new to the channel and you want more great New York Jets content, make sure you bash that subscribe button, give us a like, as we'd like to get this trending for as many Jet fans as possible. And of course, guys, enjoyed the bye week. Loved watching that Bills game this past weekend. So much to talk about, and I've seen a lot of videos come out at this midway point about like team MVPs, about like who's been the best Jet so far throughout the season. And while those lists are great, I wanted to go a little bit different and a little bit different direction with this because look, I think it's a little bit easier to come up with like the best of list because seeing the best is obvious. So I want to mix it up today, and I want to give love to Jet players who might not be getting as much love, but have been key contributors on this team and have had a big role on this team. And what I looked really for in this list was I wanted to find guys who, yeah, some of these guys might stick out a little bit, but their contributions I don't think get enough praise. They've been underrated free agent signing, underrated draft picks. And look, they've kind of been overshadowed by other great players on this team, which is in some ways a good thing because of the talent level now on this football team. But I wanted to give some of them some love. But of course, guys, I always love a good debate. Let us know during this live stream, during the comments, who are your top 5 underrated Jets, and I'll go over your list. If you have your own list or a player you think I forgot, would love to hear what your opinions are. Make sure you put the comments below. I will look at the comments as much as I can, try to respond to you. Or if you have questions for future videos, I will try to bring them up in future videos because you guys help make this content great, and I love you guys for all the support that you've given me and the channel. So we'll get into it in a little bit, but it is an exciting time to be a Jet fan. Looking forward to the Patriot game this upcoming weekend. We will be previewing that as well this week on the channel, so I promise you, you're not going to want to miss that one. I think it will be very good. And look, this is a big game for the Jets. I know a lot of Jet fans were upset that this game wasn't flexed this Sunday Night Football game, but I can see where NBC is coming from. But I would say if I had to put money on it, that the Jets-Vikings will be flexed. You'll have two teams with winning records. And look, they're always looking for storylines. This one's obvious for the Chiefs and Chargers. You have Herbert, Mahomes, who many people think are two of the best quarterbacks and young quarterbacks in the game. But I would love to see the Jets and Vikings because the headline would be Sauce Gardner versus Justin Jefferson. And look, I think that would be an unbelievable matchup. But guys, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's get right into it and let us get to the list. So we start out with our number 5 Jet, which is Sheldon Rankins. And look, Rankins for me this year has been a really good player. And I know the stat sheet doesn't necessarily jump out with only 2.5 sacks, but he has been a menace on the interior of this defensive line. And it will be really interesting to see how this team makes up for his loss over the next couple of weeks because he's going to be out with the elbow injury for 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm curious to see how the Jets will make up for that absence. I'm expecting more John Franklin-Myers inside, maybe more playing time from Michael Clemens. But look, Rankins was in an interesting place on this team. Like, let's not forget he had a high cap number coming into the season, and I really thought he might be a cap casualty on this team because Vinny Curry was coming back. It was clear that the Jets valued his wisdom and his veteran leadership. And with Rankins, he's been a really good pass rusher. And one of the reasons I really do believe that Quinnen Williams is having the season he's having is partially because of Rankins on the inside. He's a Jet that doesn't get a lot of love. There's a lot of pass rushers that are getting a lot of love. And on this defensive line, and rightfully so, I mean, Quinnen deserves all the love he's getting this year. There's another player on this list we will get to in a little bit. But overall, I think Sheldon is just someone that's gotten overlooked and really has been a menace on the interior because we talk about the Jets' exterior pass rushers, their edge rushers improving, but their interior might be one of the best, if not the best combo in the NFL. And I'm really curious to see how they deal with the loss of Sheldon Rankins because, like it or not, it is a significant blow, and he has been a really good player for this team. So number 4 on the list was an underrated signing that went a little under rare, but at the time, I really loved it, and he has been instrumental for this team. And that is, let's get to the next one. That's Kwon Alexander. I think Kwon has been unbelievable for this Jet team. He's done a really good job, especially in coverage, and he's covered up a lot of the speed issues that the Jets have had on the outside. Look, Quincy's had some big splash plays. CJ Mosley has just been solid like he's always been in the middle. But Kwon has added an element to this team. He's been very good in pass coverage. He gives them, they're probably their best pass defending linebacker. We've seen CJ Mosley struggle in the passing games at times this year. I mean, Quincy, of course, went down with a major injury for a couple weeks, and Kwon really has stepped up and has played a role that I think suits him. He's not playing a ton of snaps out there. He's had injury issues in the past, but the Jets have been able to keep him healthy. And you see the athleticism, and you see why this Jet team really wanted to bring him on board. And I think he's been really good. And for the amount the Jets are paying him, they're paying him nothing, and they are getting a very good contributor at the linebacker position. So I think he's been unbelievable. And look, linebacker wasn't one of the biggest needs on this team, but it was a position that you wanted this team to upgrade, especially early in training camp when they had just Quincy and just CJ. Kwon's added some nice depth, and he really stepped up, especially in Quincy's absence. And he has been an unbelievable signing for this team and another underrated Jet that I don't think gets enough love. Now, the top three, I really think you can kind of interchange them. I kind of go by importance of the positions, but this next player could be on the top of a lot of lists. He doesn't get a ton of love because there's two big names in front of him, but that's got to be Michael Carter II. Look, I know Michael Carter, the running back's getting a lot of love right now. I understand that we all know how great Sauce looks. Sauce looks like a special unicorn talent in the NFL. DJ Reed has been probably the best free agent signing, and they have gotten all the accolades they've rightfully deserved. But quietly, did you know that the Jets have the best corner grade room? And one of the reasons is Michael Carter II has a PFF grade of 76.3, which is 15th best in the entire league. And this is a position, too, where slot corners, it's tough. You don't give them a lot of love, but it is a very difficult position for corners to play because you're usually going against smaller type of wide receivers, a little bit more guys that can be a little bit more twitch athletes. And for years, it seemed like the Jets just got eviscerated by the slot corner position. Look, Carter's had some of the biggest picks of this year. I mean, to me, the biggest one he had, the most influential one, was the Pittsburgh game. Sauce made an unbelievable play, but he came down with the interception that helped the Jets really get on their run and really turn their season around to a point where the Jets are now in the driver's seat and at the top of the AFC East. And look, Sauce is unbelievable. I don't think you can question how great Sauce is. DJ Reed has been the best free agent signing, in my opinion, in the NFL this season. But we have to remember Michael Carter II. And one of the reasons that the Jets have this great secondary is at every level they have been really good. And Michael Carter II probably will not get the love he deserves, but you can make a case he might be one of the best slot corners in the entire league. And the scary thing is he's only a second-year player. Like, this is a secondary that's still ascending. I mean, their oldest big player is DJ Reed, and he's 25, and you still feel like he has runway ahead of him in order to get better. So really exciting player. And look, I think Michael Carter II has been unbelievable this season. I really do. So for our next Jet on the list, let's get back to it. We will get to number 2, Nate Herbig. Look, Nate Herbig, I remember coming on this show at the time and saying, partially because I'm an offensive line nerd, and anyone who's watched the channel, who's watched my draft content, you know the importance I put on the offensive line, how much I talk ad nauseum about the offensive line. But I remember when the Jets made this signing, I said this could be one of the most underrated signings of the offseason because Nate Herbig was a starting level guard. The Eagles just couldn't keep him on their roster because they were so loaded at their offensive line position, and the Jets got him for a steal. And I said, look, this is someone that it's not going to get talked about. It's not going to be a big headline, but the Jets drastically improved their guard position, and especially with the lack of tackle upgrades that they made, this was a really big signing, in my opinion. He has not disappointed. 24 years old, and look, since inserting him to the roster, you can make a case that he might be the most important offensive lineman on this team because when the Jets started to get on their roll, really running the football well, when the Jets offensive line started to settle, the big headline was, of course, AVT moving tackle. And AVT is an all-pro talent. But one of the things we lost in that shuffle was Nate Herbig stepping into that right guard position, which, if you remember last year, was a nightmare for the first 10 weeks this season with Greg Van Roten playing the position. And Herbig has been solid. He's been great in the run blocking. And one of the things I really love is his pulling ability. You see him, he's not an overly tall guard. He looks almost like a sawed-off guard, but he can come around that edge. He's got great athleticism. He's great at pulling, getting around to the opposite side of the offensive line. And the running game has really picked up behind him. And the offensive line has settled a bit. Yes, Dwayne Brown has helped at the left tackle position. I don't think you can question that. Yes, AVT moving to the tackle positions has helped. But look, Nate Herbig has played a really good guard, and I think he's got to be one of the priorities for this Jet team to keep, not only as a high-end backup, but if Connor McGovern leaves as an unrestricted free agent, Herbig could potentially be this team's starting center. I would seriously consider that next year because of his ability on the inside, and he's 24 years old. The Jets could have gotten a cast off, and he could potentially be, I really believe this, a long-term starter on this offensive line. He can maybe be this team's future center, at the very least, be an elite level backup to back up both Laken Tomlinson, AVT next year, and even the center position. So Nate Herbig doesn't get a lot of love. I think that we've seen the shuffling of this offensive line, but he has done a great job stabilizing that right guard position. And for me, it was close. I really did consider Nate for number one. It was a close race, but look, I got to give it to the Jets fan favorite. I got to give it to the man, Bryce Huff. Look, you can argue about this choice because Jet fans understand how good Bryce Huff is, but we have to remember that this was a player that was inactive for 3 weeks, which seems mind-blowing now. And on a team where you have Jermaine Johnson, who's coming back and looking like a stud pick as a first-round defensive end, John Franklin Myers, Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner. We're talking about impact players on this team. But Bryce Huff is almost a closer on a defensive line. He only will play 12 to 16 snaps a game, but when he does, the Jets' pass rush win rate almost goes up by 10% when he's on the field, and he has the second highest pressure rate in the entire league. The entire league. He has been unbelievable, and he has made impact plays. The Bills strip sack, of course, to force the Bills into long situations, with the Jets' big win over the Bills last week. Huff has been great, and I've been screaming, whether I had LeJay Douzable, whenever I've had guests on the show, like Bryce Huff always comes up that this kid needs to play more. He needs to be on the field more. And while he will probably never be a full-time defensive end, he'll probably never be a 20th snap game guy. When he is on that field in a passing situation, you have to account for him. And part of the reason that he has to be accounted for is because this Jet defensive line has so many pieces that can beat you so many different ways. And one of the reasons the Jets have been so good this year is winning with that front four, getting after it. And really, when this defense took off, did you notice when it was? It was when Bryce Huff was inserted into the lineup. Last season, the Jets defense, the first couple weeks looked pretty good. I always will say the biggest injury to that defense last year wasn't necessarily Lawson. It was Bryce Huff, because when they lost that edge pass rush, this defense went into the toilet last year. This defense was struggling at times the first couple of weeks. They put Bryce Huff in there in week 4, and this defense looks completely different. They went from looking like a good defense or a solid defense to all of a sudden we're talking about the Jets having one of the best defenses in the league. In order to do that, you have to have key role guys, and there might not be a more key role guy in the entire National Football League than Mr. Bryce Huff. So that is our list. Those are my top 5 underrated New York Jets. I'd love to get your comments on this list. And look, you guys might disagree with me. Maybe some of you feel Braden Mann has been better as a punter and I'm not giving enough love. Maybe some of you, I was debating whether Connor McGovern, because McGovern's been solid at center this year. But I bumped Herbig in there because he was a low-risk free agent signing. They brought him in basically to be a backup, and he has played over his skis, basically, which he's played exceptionally well. And I think he's put himself in a position to be a long-term solution on this team, where McGovern has been what you would expect from him. He's been a solid center. So I think that this list, I try to look for underrated players. Now, could you maybe argue the safeties with their play this year? Sure, but I was looking for players that look. Michael Carter II is not going to get the love he deserves. He's been excellent this year, but when you have Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, kind of take the air out of the room. Bryce Huff has been great, but when you have a first-round pick in Jermaine Johnson, who's shown some good flashes, you have Quinnen Williams looking like the best interior defensive lineman in the NFL this year. That's going to take some wind out of your sails. And look, Kwon Alexander's been a solid pickup that really I think has added to this defense. Has added to the athleticism. He's had big hits. He's shown off that athleticism at times. So I really think that he has been an underrated signing. And look, Sheldon Rankins has been a very good interior pass rusher for this team. And outside of Quinnen, he's probably the best interior defensive line pass rusher this year. We'll have to see how they supplement that. Will we see more JFM in there? Will we see more Michael Clemens in there? We shall see. Let's see. Okay. Okay, guys, let me know about your comments in the below. I mean, Jacob, an open facility and scream team at me. Look, it's the NFL, Jacob. Unfortunately, they don't know where you're coming from. They don't know what you're going to do. Like you have to. It's not just the Jets. Every team is so protective of the facility. They also don't want necessarily maybe some injury news to get out because a picture, like for example, if you're showing like a certain group and a certain player's not out there and they haven't disclosed an injury, maybe they can look at injuries. So I get open practice. Teams can be a little bit weird about that. And look, I get it, but a lot of teams like you sometimes need credentials. Is this week, I guess, or another one? But I'm not sure where that was really coming from. But unfortunately, I understand the situation. But again, guys, if you're joining us after the show, I'd love to see your list. Like, please put in the comments, put in the chat right now, like list off 1 through 5, your top 5 underrated Jets. We will get to this later this week, Expert Dealer. I'm glad you brought it up. We will do an episode later this week breaking down the Pats game. Look, I think I wouldn't say it's a must win, but if the Jets want to make a statement, I really want them to win out of this bye because it does a couple of things. Because one of the themes I've said this year, it's been a check box here where the Jets have needed to check off certain boxes to becoming a legitimate contender. Like one of them was winning in September. They checked off that box. Winning with a backup quarterback, which they hadn't done forever. They checked off that box. Winning in the AFC East. They checked off that box. Beating a truly better opponent in the Bills. Check that box off. The biggest box that's still left is the Patriots. And I think it's more important for the fan base just to get off the schneid, just to basically end that losing streak against the Patriots. And look, I really think this Jet team can do it. I think that they were the better team when they played the last time. But it's also going to be important to see how this team comes out after the bye. Because while Robert Saleh and this coaching staff has done an unbelievable job, you really can tell coaching out of the bye. Because one of the things about Rex Ryan was his teams usually struggle coming out of a bye. Because a lot of them were energy-based. They weren't really because of the strategy. Now, the buys can benefit guys like Andy Reid because it buys them more time to strategize. It buys them more time to watch some more film. And look, for the Jet team, it's also interesting how these players interact on this bye. Were they taking care of their bodies? Were they staying in shape? Were they out partying too hard? Because again, the Jets are doing well. And one of the things about New York is when your team is doing well, you will be the toast of the town. So we're going to learn a lot about this Jet team coming out of the bye. This is an incredibly important game. Now, if the Jets lose the Patriots, I don't think it's the end of the world. It is a big game. It's an AFC East game. You want to go up 3-1 in the AFC East. You want to at least have split the series with the Patriots this year. And you look at the back half of their schedule, it's going to get tougher. And this is a game where the Jets should win. I mean, the Jets after this, the funny thing for the Jets this year is they've been a better road team. They've been a home team. And the 3 home games they have left are against the Lions, the Bears, and I'm trying to remember who the other one was. Lions, Bears. It's against another team that's not really good, though. And those are games like you expect to win. Even though Justin Fields is playing well, I think that they're a better team than the Bears. I think they're a better team than the Lions. So this is a game where, to me, the Jets are the better team. They need to take care of business, and they need to show it. And if they can go up to 7-3, it makes it a lot easier for this team because you look at the last 7 games, then even if the Jets go under 500, even if they go 3-4, they get to 10 wins. And I think that's going to be good enough to get into the wild card this year. Now, the other thing, though, is the expectations are changing. The Bills are struggling. The Dolphins have been really good. The Jets have beaten the Dolphins this year. So there's a chance the Jets have at the division. I still think the Bills are a great team, but it will be interesting because one of the things I kept saying about this Bills team is part of the problems when you have success, a true testament is what happens when you start losing pieces. And it's clear to me that Dable being gone, I kept saying this before the year, I think is going to have a big impact. And I think you're starting to see that because Josh is starting to revert back to what he was a little bit more as a younger player, which is more reckless with the football, which is someone that's taking more shots down the field, not being as careful with the football. And say what you want about Daniel Jones, but the Giants don't turn the football over. And I guarantee you Dable was hammering in Josh's ear last year to be efficient, to hold on to the football. And right now, not having that guy, I think is really hurting him. JJ and Huff should be 2 guys to play that side of the left side of the defense. So when you mean that, I'm guessing, expert dealer, are you talking about like they always rotate out? I would like to see Jermaine maybe kick inside for a couple plays, see if he can move around on the defensive line. I think is that what you're trying to mean, like in a third down situation, putting Jermaine Johnson inside and then have Huff on the outside? Or are you talking about just with the rotation? Because like I think that's what they're going to probably do is I think you're going to see a lot more JFM inside, Jermaine Johnson on the edge. But don't forget, too, they still have Vinny Curry, and they still also have they have a lot of depth on that defensive line. Let's see. Jags from KD. Thank you. That's it. And Jacksonville's not playing that great either. So, I mean, I think the toughest games are going to be the Vikings. But even the Vikings, like, the Vikings are such a weird team, man, because when they keep sneaking out wins against bad teams and in one possession games. Like the Vikings, like that was a great win for them over the Bills, but let's be honest, that felt more like the Bills shooting themselves in the foot. Like even if the Bills take a safety, they still probably win that game. Like so many things like went to the Vikings' way. And look, I think the Jets are, I would say this, I really think the Jets are a better team than the Vikings. And I'm also, let's be honest, guys. I'm praying for a flex Sunday Night Football. Hey, NBC, Sauce versus Justin Jefferson. There's your matchup. And also, guys, I'd rather take on Kirk Cousins, at night. He tends to, be the opposite of a werewolf, play worse at night. He's the 1 o'clock MVP. He's like the greatest 1 o'clock player in the world. But after 4, so that's what I'm really hoping. Yeah, I think you're going to see that with the rotation a lot more, that Jermaine Johnson's going to get a lot of playing time. And I really think that, because don't forget, he was a first-round pick. He's going to get a lot. Let's see. Don't know what that comment was, but yeah, I get that. But Jacob, the thing with Justin Fields is Fields has been unbelievable like the last couple weeks. He's been phenomenal running the football. He still has struggled at times with the accuracy. I still think I want to see him develop into a passer, which I still think he can. And it does feel like Chicago's finally putting some pieces around him in the right place. But I mean, the other thing with the running style quarterbacks is we see this a lot in the NFL where it can work. It can work for a couple of years. But after a while, if you start taking hits and punishment, I don't know how long you're going to last. So it's been a great story with Justin Fields. I know there's still some Jet fans that wish they drafted Justin Fields. I think there will always be that debate. But I still think it's a bit early for Zach. I still want to see what Zach can do. I want to see what Zach does after this bye week. I want to see, hopefully, he was able to get some more reps in, able to get some practice in. And I still think that Zach, it's too early to completely move on from Zach. And look, I know that there's already a portion of the fan base that has moved on. I also think there's a portion of the fan base that over defends Zach. And look, I'll be honest, I've seen some red flags with Zach, but I still see a kid with a lot of arm talent that when he plays within the system can be highly efficient. And he's on a team where he doesn't have to make plays. Like Justin Fields, let's put it this way, Justin Fields doesn't do what he's doing. The Bears don't have any shot. But despite how great he was, they still can beat the Lions. So I think that will always still be a great debate, though. If you were scheming a game plan to beat the Jets, what would be your key points to attack the offense and the defense? So let me start with the offense would be stack the box, put 8 or 9 guys in the box, and try to make Zach Wilson beat you. Just because he's shown that he struggled against pressure, bringing extra pressure, selling out, and basically putting your corners and safeties in one-on-ones. Even though that's a bit of a risk because the Jets have guys that can beat the one-on-one coverage with Garrett Wilson. If I was a team, I would still try to have them because the Jets want to be a run-first team. The Jets want to run the ball. The Jets want to be efficient pounding the ball. But if you are stacking the box and making it third and over 5, it's going to be tough. You take the run game out, and then you have to make Zach make a play. So if I'm a team, I'm trying to take the Jets running game off the board and make Zach beat you. And to beat the Jets defense, I think the biggest thing is you're not going to beat them over the top. The biggest thing is you have to have a good offensive line to slow down this pass rush. You have to almost make the Jets blitz you. Like you need to stop the front four. Like if you can stop that 4-man front and make the Jets blitz, because Jets show they don't want to blitz. They're the 3rd lowest blitz rate in the entire league right now. But the Jets have been able to get home with 4. The biggest thing I would say is the screen games have always been tough for this defense. You're not going to beat this team deep, and they're going to give you the chunks. Like if you're a team that's willing to be an efficient 12 to 16 play, get 5 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, 5 yards. Like I think the teams when like the Bills struggle against the Jets because they're trying to hit the home run. I think the teams like the Dolphins, even though Tua is a better short passer, struggle because those teams have been feasting on the home run ball. They're looking to hit home runs. They're looking at triples. The Jets are not going to do that. They're going to let you hit singles. They'll give you a little bit. They're not going to give you a lot. So you have to be a team that's willing to grind it out, get long drives, get ugly drives, and take points when you can. Because this Jet defense is really good. They're good on the back end. They really don't have a huge weakness. And if I was to try to attack, I'd try attack in the middle of the field, the tight ends in the slot, especially if good receivers. But the thing we've seen also with Sauce, if your best weapon's a tight end, he's going to cover your tight end. I mean, we saw it with Mark Andrews. So if you're a team that your best weapon's a tight end, don't be surprised if the Jets put a corner on him. Try to take him out of the game. We got to stop. Yeah, Matthew Judon. I mean, he's been a headache all season long. Leads the league in sacks this year. Yeah, if the Jets can slow down Judon, that would be big. And look, I think the Jets just got to keep running the football. I think they got way too away from the run, and I really like what they did in the last game against the Bills. It wasn't just as a play caller. You can't. Everyone talks about pass play design. But we saw it last week, more creative design, a lot more motion, a lot more getting receivers involved in the run game, misdirection, having both backs in the backfield, and also getting Zach Wilson involved. If they can get Zach Wilson to be a big threat running the football because he can take off and make plays with his legs, that adds a whole nother element to this team. Because I've been saying for weeks, like this is almost like an option offense that you can run with the weapons. Like one formation I love is when you have the 2 backs in the backfield or a running back in the backfield. You get Berrios in motion coming across the formation. You snap the football. The defense then has to count. Okay, did Berrios get the ball in a jet sweep? Did the running back get the ball? Is Zach Wilson going to keep the ball? And that's just the run designs. If it's a RPO, do they have to stay home for like a tight end sneaking it across the middle of the field? Could Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson all of a sudden be going up the seam? So the run game creativity has shown a lot, and I'm really excited about that. But yeah, the Jets need to slow down Judon. The big questions too, the health of the Jets. We'll talk about later this week, but a big thing will be if they get one of the tackles back. If Max Mitchell is back, he's still a rookie, but I feel he's an upgrade over the tackle position that they had. If they get George Fant back and he's completely healthy. That will be an upgrade at the tackle position. So the Jets might be getting some offensive line help, but if it's a passing situation, I would get your best pass blocking back in there. And the backs have struggled a bit in that. James Robinson's been a better pass blocking back, but if it's 3rd and 6 or more, I wouldn't leave Zach by himself back there. Like, I would have a running back on that side, or at least I'd have a tight end to chip in, at least try to slow down Matthew Judon. And it depends on where Judon's lining up. If Judon's lining up on Zach's right side, it does limit it because you can't really bootleg out to that side. But if he's on the left, I'm bootlegging Zach to the right, get him away from that pass rush and give him a running lane to take off down the field. Yeah, he needs to step up in the pocket, Thomas. Like, I think you saw it more last week. That's my biggest criticism is like the first reaction of Zach wasn't stepping up into the pocket to make a play. It was backpedaling, because backpedaling doesn't do you any good, because if you get taken down, it's negative yards. You're also creating more distance between you and your receivers, and you're also taking your eye line off your receivers. Like, when you step up in the pocket, you're able to keep maintaining your eye level downfield. But when you're like backpedaling, you're pushing your head back, it's changing the eye level, seeing how you view the field, and it could throw off your field vision. So I need to see Zach step up in the pocket more, but that is a really good take too. I'm guessing you mean for the Patriots. Yeah, the Patriots are not going to beat you over the top. Pats will stop the run. I don't know why Zach doesn't run with the ball. And I think I have a couple reasons, Expert Dealer. I mentioned on the previous show, I think part of it is it's in Zach's head a little bit because the play got injured on was a running play. And look, I do wonder too with this Jet team if they're a little bit cautious, because Zach loves Zach, but he's already missed 7 games in his NFL career. And it's clear that this offense functions a lot better when he's under center than when Joe Flacco is under center. So, and you saw it last week, got nicked up a little bit, and it was a worrisome. So I think that they're trying to protect Zach. Now, if Zach can take off, get 5, and get out of bounds, great. But you don't expect Zach to be running the ball like Josh Allen or one of these big running quarterbacks. Like, I don't think wants to take the punishment. But I do want to see him involve more, like some quarterback design runs. I think they try to design. Tell me if I'm wrong in the Bills game, but didn't they try to design run with him when they were in the red zone? I think they tried to do a fake and he tried to roll left. It looked like a design run and was successful. But a part of it too is I think they want to protect their quarterback. I mean, it's clear that he's already had a major injury this year. The Jets were fortunate that it was only a month where every Jet fan thought it was a freaking ACL tear that night in Philadelphia. So I think that's part of it too, Expert Dealers. While I think the Jets want him to run a little bit more, it's a little worrying, but I also think it's a little bit mental because Zach Wilson got hurt on a running play. And it was a play where he was rolling out, trying to get extra yards, made a cut, and his knee gave out. So I do wonder if that's in his head a little bit. And look, as an athlete, like whenever you do something, you get injured and on a certain thing, you're a little bit wary to do it for a while, potentially, because, you still have that thought in the back of your head. We needed to event a play. Yeah, I would say like a great play off of that would be try to get a fake jet sweep and have him keep, because like, let's say you send Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson in motion and you can sell the offensive line. What I would try to do for a play design is like, let's say it's a receiver on the right side. So I'm Zach's right-handed. So I have the receiver coming across my face, going to my left. I would fake the jet sweep, but to sell the jet sweep, I'd have the offensive line shift. I've had them stretch Brock to the left. So basically a hard left step. So it looks like the whole play is shifting to the left side. But what you could do out of this is have a tight end as a running back, potentially, like have, like let's say Michael Carter is a back next to Wilson, and then you have like, let's say Conklin or Zama in the backfield. Now, If Wilson keeps, you can then send that tight end across his face going to the right and be a lead blocker. So in case, like, let's say we're playing the Patriots and Judon's that end, and Judon wasn't necessarily fooled on that play and is unblocked by the right tackle, at least they're a running back or a tight end going into that motion with Zach to be a lead blocker to pick up that block and open up a bit of a running game. So that could be a little bit of a trick play. Not really a trick play, but a design play. Also, too, if you see the team rushing wide, like a great example in that Patriot game on the 4th down play where you saw that the lane discipline, part of the reason the Patriots had good pass rush the game is because Zach wasn't running, so they could run on discipline. If they rush wide, it opens up the middle of the field and Zach can take off. Like, even if it's not, you don't even need great runs. If you have Zach on a 3rd down, a 3rd and 6, just scamper for 7 and get a 1st down, it keeps the defense on the field. It keeps them getting tired, but it also makes the defense respect the run. And that could help the numbers game. Because if they have to put a spy on Zach Wilson, if they have to be more disciplined in their lane rush, it could allow him more throwing time. It could allow him a mismatch. It could allow him an open target down the middle of the field. Let's see. Yeah, Moore has been such an odd situation. I mean, the big thing with Moore is I think that the Jets are in a position where hopefully Corey Davis. Now, I don't know if Corey Davis will fully be back after the bye, but we expect if he's not back this week, he's back in the following week. Now, Sal did say in his press conference last week that they're moving more to the slot, which I think is smart because that's his natural position. That's where he was most effective in college. He's a bit undersized. While he can be an outside receiver, I think the slot it will be the best. And for Zach, it'll probably be easier to get a connection because he'll be more in his eyesight and more directly in front of him in throwing progressions. But with all that being said, it's tough, though, because the Jets have receivers that are showing flashes and that can do things that Elijah Moore necessarily can't. I mean, Braxton Berrios to me needs to be more involved, and I think he needs to be this team's Deebo Samuel, where he needs to get 5 to 7 touches as a runner in a game, whether it's directly out of the backfield as a fake running back, whether it's on jet sweeps. He, as a returner, has such great field vision that he can see blocks downfield, openings and creases that other receivers can't. He's a special runner. He needs to get more involved. You have Garrett Wilson, who's clearly this team's most talented receiver. I don't think there's a question now. Like his route running ability, his ability to get open, his ability to make plays. Like the Jets showed why he was their 10th pick overall and why many considered him the best receiver in this draft. And I think he's still showing that ability. And you also have Corey Davis, who's got that big outside threat. And the problem with Elijah too now is this offense has changed where they want to be a run-first offense. And you have a guy like Denzel Mims who, while maybe not be the same production receiver that Elijah Moore is, he's a bigger receiver and he's been a great run blocker and he's sprung a couple big run plays because of his blocking ability. So although I love the potential of Elijah, although I love his ability, it's a little bit on him. He's got to be able to get open. He's got to be able to make a big play. And I think a part of it too is it's kind of, if he can hit a big play against the Patriots, I think that will be huge because it'll instill some confidence with him in this offense and also with Zach. But if he continues to just not make plays, get open, and look, I understand a lot of this is on Zach. I get your point. I do think Zach needs to be a little bit more efficient with his passing and a little bit more crisper. But at the same time, I do think that for Elijah Moore, like he needs something. Like they need a flash play from him. We'll see a lot. We're gonna see because the Jets had a bye week. They've talked about putting him in the slot, where his best position. We'll see this week, and we'll see how this team looks at his value. We'll see how this team values him as a playmaker. And I agree. Like you want to get more playmakers involved, especially with the injuries this team's had on offense, but the Jets have a lot of playmakers now. I mean, Garrett Wilson, I think, is clearly this team's best receiver. You have tight ends that can make plays. You have running backs that can stick their nose and make plays. You have Braxton Berrios that has an interesting skill set that you can utilize. You have Denzel Mims. And look, they were taking shots at Denzel Mims. I think this team needs to take shots down the field with Mims. I think they're that close to breaking off a big one. So, but I get it. And unfortunately, the trade deadline's passed. There'll be a decision in the offseason. I think the coaches will say one thing, but I always say this, expert dealer. Actions always speak louder words than me with organizations, because a press conference is one thing. They say certain things to the media, but you have to look at the actions of this team. And if Elijah Moore is not high on this depth chart, if he's not getting a lot of touches, he's not getting a lot of opportunities, it tells you what this coaching staff thinks. And look, you can come out of this doghouse. Denzel Mims proved that, he wasn't a favor of the coaching staff last year, worked his butt off, and now he's getting an opportunity. So this coaching staff has made it clear they're looking for football guys. They're looking for guys that are 100% dedicated. And look, if you practice well, if you make an impact in practice and you show out in practice, you'll get an opportunity. Now, we're not at the practice facility. We don't know what's going on with Elijah in practice. We don't know how he's practicing. But look, with coaching staffs, like, they want players that are fully bought in, and the Jets have a lot of players that are fully bought in right now. Denzel Mims, even though he requested a trade, seems bought in. But in the back of their minds, I still think there will always be tension with that trade request, because you requested a trade in the middle of a great winning streak and when this team was finally getting it turned around. So it's going to be something. I mean, the Elijah Moore thing is going to follow him around, and it's going to follow this team around until he starts making plays on this team, but we'll see how he's utilized. Over the past 2 years tonight. Yeah, it's older, but it's not old in key spots. I do think Marie, I think it's a little bit misconstrued, because, again, you brought in Dwayne Brown, which really threw off the ages because he's 37. I mean, for the most part, when I say who are the key players on this team, they're all under 26. Like, the biggest players on this team are under 26. The older veterans are CJ Mosley, who's a good player, but I don't think he's necessarily the biggest name on this team. I know Lawson is over 26, but I mean, look, Quinnen under 26, Sauce under 26, DJ Reed under 26, Breece Hall under 26, Garrett Wilson under 26. I mean, a lot of the big players on this team are under it. But look, you need a good infusion of veteran leadership and wisdom, and I do think the Jets have that, and they've used it to their advantage this year. But again, guys, thank you so much. As always, loved having all of you guys on the show today. Really great stuff. We did our top 5 list, so I would love also to hear in the comments if you have a different list out there that you think are the Jets' top 5 underrated players this year. Love to hear it in the comments. If you're joining us after the show, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next live stream. And also, if you have any Jets questions, put it in the chat and we will answer it in the next video, guys. And don't forget, we will be previewing the Patriots matchup later this week here on Rich Sports Talk. I promise you're not going to want to miss that. So we'll see you next time, Jet fans, here on Rich Sports Talk.